Hey yo, got a Thursday night game coming up between San Francisco and New York Giants. This is my little stat overview. Some interesting stuff, some not so interesting stuff. Let's just start with the basic overview here. Not a lot of out players on the Giants defensive side, nor the San Francisco 49ers side on offense. Looks like the Giants are a little bit banged up at right inside linebacker. No particular news on that. And then same on the strong side linebacker. Again, no particular comment via ESPN, but two players to monitor. Not their superstars or anything. They aren't particularly talented at these positions anyway. So I wouldn't really see that as a massive impact on their defense for this game. Quote unquote defense. San Francisco 49ers, again, it's just Brandon Ayuk being monitored. He says Shanahan says Ayuk is limited participant in Tuesday's practice, so someone definitely to keep an eye on here. On the other sides of the ball, San Francisco a little bit banged up at right side cornerback. Their top guy is still in. Second guy is questionable. No comment from ESPN just yet. On the line for the Giants, Andrew Thomas, questionable. And at left guard, Ben Bredesen is also questionable. Looks like he had a concussion in the win over the crazy win over Arizona. So look out for the Giants line to... Not that they do much anyway. Awful line. I will say Saquon had a good game last week, regardless of the crappy line play. But we'll look into some stats there. And then Saquon is also just the big question mark on the Giants side of the ball on offense. He was not a participant on Tuesday's walkthrough. They keep saying he's feeling better, but I wouldn't really count on him having a full game. But who knows? We will see. Some basic other overview. We're playing at Levi's Stadium. The over-under for this game is 44 points with moderate rain forecast. Shouldn't have any impact on the game. And as far as the spread, we have San Francisco taking 10 points. New York getting 10 points. New York is 1-1. San Francisco is 2-0. Predicted points for the 49ers is 27. Predicted for the Giants 17. So don't look for a lot of offense out of New York. I would even go under on their side of the ball. They're so bad. I mean, they came back against Arizona. Like Arizona is not good. They're ranked last in the league, and New York is right down there with them. So I don't expect a lot. San Francisco blew out Pittsburgh, who has a great offense. So I can't imagine New York coming in and doing much. As far as New York or San Francisco's defense, currently this year, they've given up 25 points to passers. They've given up 65 points to receivers and 19 points in rushing points. And these are not running back, receiver, quarterback. These are just passing, receiving, and rushing. So it could be anybody rushing, but that's how many points they've given up. They're ranked 9th currently against the rush, 19th against receptions, and 13th against passing. They haven't played any tier 1 wide receivers yet. So all the points have been distributed between wide receiver 2, 3, and 4, which is somewhat balanced. The majority of the points going to wide receiver 4 is just because that's the majority of the people they've faced. So the lowest ranked guy that they've faced that scored on them scored 15 points. And he was ranked or had a grade of about 70. I don't know exactly who that is, but this is generally where they'll give up points to. So it looks like they kind of clamp down on the opposite teams, their opposing teams' top-rated players, and let the little guys just do their thing. So that's San Francisco on defense, New York on offense. Passing ranked 24th, reception ranked 20th, rushing ranked 14th. A little bit better in that department, but again, that's dependent on Saquon Barkley and also Daniel Jones, because he likes to rush the ball. They do play better when he gets out of the pocket. I feel like he didn't even bother trying in the first game, in the first half of the second game, just running the ball. But if he gets loose, he can make damage. He can get those first downs, convert the third downs, etc. That is just something they need to do. However, are they going to be able to do that against San Francisco? We'll see. He's going to have to, because I don't see New York just giving up easy yards to anybody else. So Saquon is very questionable. He's by far their top back in terms of attempts. I mean, next to Daniel Jones, who is also just running for his life out there. But Saquon Barkley, more than 50% of the carries, should he play. Is Matt Breida gonna be the guy if they don't play Saquon? I guess he's their next guy in line, but we also got Eric Gray and Gary Brightwell here, who might take up some of that slack. Matt's not like an every down guy. He's kind of slight, 5'10", 190, so he could get punished in there. I wouldn't look to him to be like the mainstay. Probably some extra touches for Eric Gray, but we'll see. In terms of passing, pretty spread out between their Saquon Barkley's second, tied for second in their passing targets. So maybe Matt Breida takes up some of that slack. Darren Waller is already their leading target receiver, with Slayton tied for second, Paris Campbell third, and Isaiah Hodgins 4th/5th or whatever. So they kind of spread it out amongst their top guys here, pretty much who you'd expect to be getting the targets. Jalen Hyatt was a little bit of a bright spot. We'll see if he's going to get some extra targets. He's kind of a speedster and had a nice little catch, so it'll be interesting to see if he gets a little bit more action. Again, though, don't see that happening against San Francisco. They are a talented defensive team. Not tremendous ranks, pretty high against the rush, against receivers, but it looks like they got burned. I think this was like one play or something. We'll have to look that one up. So at tight end for New York, Darren Waller is your target, and I would look for Shepard to be covered. Paris Campbell will probably get his opportunities, and Slayton, of course, will get his opportunities. It really depends on how they focus on who they want to take out of this game, but I just don't see Daniel Jones getting a lot of time to pass the ball in this game. It's going to be pretty rough for them. They are going to get blown out. That's just the bottom line. Let's look at the spread with the Giants on offense. So again, these are their top guys talent-wise. How they match up, not too bad, but I think the line is mostly the issue here. So, I would imagine Waller is going to get like 8 or 9 targets in this game. Their tendencies, they like to throw it to the right quite a bit more than the left, probably because Jones likes to roll out in that direction, give him that option to run as well. They do throw it over the middle quite a bit, 60% to wide receivers. Whoops. Sorry, wrong graphic. 17% tight end. This will change. These are last year's tendencies, but tight end will go up significantly with Waller on the team, and 22% to running backs. And we can already see that kind of playing out with Saquon Barkley being second in line and Darren Waller top. So these are already 50% of the targets, or close to that anyway. 40% is between running back and tight end, barely at wide receiver. In terms of rushing tendencies, they're pretty spread out. Again, they like to go to the right side of the ball and on the edge there, but this is going to be kind of a question mark. If Saquon Barkley plays, we'll assume the tendencies prevail, but if not, things get thrown in the mixer, which is nice for DFS because a super chalky lineup is a bummer. You end up splitting first place with 50 other people. For your 50 lineups, you get $70 back or something, even though you scored first place. That's just the name of that game. So since we have some uncertainty, it'll be fun to see if any of these guys, throw these guys on a couple teams and see if they come up. I wouldn't put any of those guys as MVP. I don't think I'd put a Giant as MVP, especially considering the powerhouses we have on the other side of the ball. So let's go ahead and swap sides here, and we'll look at the Giants on defense, and they are just god-awful against the rush. Second to last place, giving up points to rushing yards and touchdowns, giving up 57 already over 2 games. Pretty good against pass and receptions. Again, that just might be because nobody is passing against them because they don't have to. Arizona went up fast and early, and a lot of the points scored against them were defensive points. So the other team's just going to run it because they're going to run out the clock and try and, just bank these games. San Francisco, God, look at that talent on the left side. Trent Williams, he's just a monster. The Giants do have a super strong nose tackle. Dexter Lawrence, I feel like he didn't do that much. Arizona was running against them and playing against them hard, and they got a lot of rushing yards against them. So honestly, this is just bad news up here. If C-Mac goes the whole game, he's gonna score a lot of points. I would even see that being as the primary focus. Since everybody else is able to do it. I don't see what the Giants can do to turn it around. I just don't see them playing like a unit right now or have that thirst. Other than that comeback, they could have some morale boost because of that. But San Francisco is such a better team than Arizona. Like, you don't want to... Coming back against Arizona is not a big deal. It is. It was amazing, fun to watch, especially because I'm in a Survivor League and New York was my freaking pick. But, God, they just looked so bad in the beginning of that game. Hopefully... They turn it around just for the sake of them, but I'm not banking on them. They certainly aren't going to win this game. Can they beat the spread? Maybe. But San Francisco is just going to pound it down their throats. So let's look at their stats, etc. So, again, 31st against the rush. A lot of points are going in reception territory to tier 1 and 2. They've given up a big game to... a tier 2 and tier 1 player. 8 points isn't huge. I mean, these aren't massive games here, but again, these are only indicative of actual reception points. These have nothing to do with if that player ran the ball, how many points, on points per catch, etc. So this is just a very general idea of points allowed to these positions, but they do give up to the star players on other teams. And San Francisco is pretty loaded. At tight end, obviously, with George Kittle, who he's so talented. He's just such a good football player, but he's never the focus. Every 5th or 6th game, he's like the guy they go to. And you never have him start him on that particular week. It's just too hard to predict. But, maybe as a sneaky MVP, throw him in there for whatever reason. Debo, first game wasn't great. His second game was better. Brandon Ayuk went off in the first game. He's listed as questionable. He was a limited participant with a little shoulder thing, so I don't know if that's holding him back or not, how serious that is, but he's only listed as questionable, not doubtful or anything. Obviously, in the backfield, we got Christian McCaffrey, who is just rocking this year. And I'm stoked on that because I actually have him on one of my year-long leagues. And it's just fun to see him be the player he should be, Knock on wood, man. He avoids this stupid injury thing that's going down every week. I just feel like that's the state of the NFL right now. People are so big, so strong, so fast that we're just outperforming our physical abilities. And you get caught in that gear, man. It's just gnarly. Just such a shame to see that happen. I just wish injuries weren't part of it, but honestly, part of the whole reason I built this site is so we can monitor injuries and see, who's hurting where and where that might lead to potentials. But it sucks what happened to Chubb last week. That's just all there is to it. It sucks what happened to Aaron Rodgers in week 1. Like, just as a fan of the game in general, God, it's so brutal. Anyway, we've all harped on that. So at receiver, we have Samuel, Ayuk, Juan Jennings, Ray McLeod, and let's look at their distribution. So in terms of passing, they're only ranked 15th right now, even though Ayuk had a really massive game in week 1. In receptions, they're only 22nd. So not, huge at passing or on passing, but number 1 in rushing. So this is just going to get dominated on the ground. McCaffrey gets the bulk of those carries. I hope he's like just feeling good and feeling strong. It's a short week, but he's still young. He's 26, 27 now. So he should be good to go, and expect him to get his 20 carries, probably 100 yards. He's kind of in the bank for MVP candidate, but we'll look and see, who outperforms and who's scored more points than him this year. I believe it was Ayuk in week 1. Debo will also carry the ball. They just like to give him the ball. It looked like in week 1 that Ayuk was just going to be the guy, but Debo is still carrying the ball more than Ayuk on offense. So you can't count him out yet. 16 targets for him, 14 for Ayuk. Kittle getting in the mix with 9 targets, and McCaffrey right there at 8. Juan Jennings down at the bottom there. So they have their pick of guys they like to get the ball to. And it's almost the same picture on the other side of the ball, except add in Elijah Mitchell. Not sure why Sam Darnold was in there. Did Purdy go down for a play or two? I don't know. So, yeah, in terms of MVP picks, let's look at some of their stats for this year so far. So coming to 2023, San Francisco in game 1, it was Brandon Ayuk with 28.9 points, 8 targets, 8 completions, 129 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That was just a massive game. It was good to see him come out like that. Debo was way down here with 7 targets, which is nothing to sneeze at. And Kittle had a lot of targets too, 6. And so, yeah, game 1, Brandon Ayuk, top scorer. McCaffrey right there in second place, only missed it by 4 points. And then week 2 against LA, arguably a better team than Pittsburgh. But again, too early to tell really who's going to dominate this year. Pittsburgh looked good last week. They beat Cleveland after a massive, wind out of the sails thing with Chubb. They still came out and played hard, and their offense looked good. So, nothing to sneeze at, but San Francisco sure dominated them. Anyway, Christian McCaffrey in week 2 against LA, 21 points, 20 rushing attempts, 116 yards. This is kind of the stat line I figured to see out of him. It seems like they like to get him the ball about 20 times per game. And he is getting caught. That's like 6 yards per game, or no, more than that, like 6.5 yards per attempt. And this one over 5. And also with the targets and yards. So, man, he's just right there. And then Debo was right there, close second with 5 rushing attempts that game, 9 targets. And Brandon Ayuk, 6 targets, 3 completions for 43 yards. So, you're going to see between 6 and 8 targets for Brandon Ayuk. From Debo, he's going to have more targets. But where he's catching the ball is going to make a difference. He's not getting a lot of yards. He did get a touchdown rushing. So that's something to look at. That's something they could dial up against New York too, because New York freaking second to last in allowing rushing. So Debo should have a good game. Christian McCaffrey should have a good game. I don't look for a lot out of Brock Purdy because I don't think he's going to have to pass it that much. George Kittle, he'll get his targets. It looks like he's getting targets at least now. Seems like last year he didn't get any. Third in targets, about half of what Debo's getting. About a third less than Brandon Ayuk there. Any more stats to go over? Let's see. Let's look at the spread. Look at this talent. here in their wide receiver department. And then look at the talent here. Not bad. They do have one really talented cornerback, Jackson, and one super talented free safety. It drops off a little bit, strong safety. So, maybe they take out Ayuk, maybe they take out Samuel, but one of these guys is going to score, they're going to get is 80 yards, I'd say. And then just depending on what they do in the red zone, whether or not they get that touchdown or not, or they have that one breakaway touchdown. Again, they're slated for 27 points, so there's like 3 touchdowns basically to be had. I imagine it would be either Samuel and Ayuk with 1 or 2 or McCaffrey. So those are like the 3 candidates for MVP. I wouldn't put any. You're going to have to play someone from the Giants if you do the single game. But I might make it like Breida or someone just goofy. I mean, you just got to like throw random guys, or probably Waller. Maybe they have a receiver get 50 yards and touchdown as well. But it's, you just got to, I don't know, sprinkle them in here and there, depending on how many lineups you do. If you do a single game lineup, I'd probably go with Waller as my only guy that from the Giants to perhaps maybe score some points. Let's see, back over here, tendencies. We already looked at distribution. We looked at the spread. So San Francisco likes to go up the left and the right, and then they are a little bit more over the middle. 58% of the time to their wide receivers. Tight ends 20% of the time. Running backs 21% of the time. So pretty well spread out there. As far as where they like to rush it, it's pretty well spread out here. They actually tend to go to the left a tiny bit more, probably because of this massive talent at left tackle. And so between him and Kittle, like this is just, it's going to be a big rushing game for the 49ers. According to the data, according to all that should happen in the world. Of course, that could go wrong. Probably not a bad idea to like put the absolute opposite in as one of your lineups and just pray that that hits, because I imagine a few people are going to be splitting top prize, because this is somewhat a predictable game with our MVP candidates, etc. All right, I think that's most of the data I've gone over. Good luck this week. I hope this helps you make some decisions.